Hi there, it's S.J. Thomason, and today we're going to talk about truth, moral realism, moral relativism, and the problem of indifference. So hang on. What is truth? Pontius Pilate famously asked Jesus, "What is truth?" Whether truth existed, independent of anyone's opinion of it, was an issue in the Roman Empire and remains an issue today. As a Christian, we believe Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the moral standard against which we can judge whether our moral actions are right or wrong. This belief aligns within a moral realist framework. Moral realists take the ontological position that objective moral values and duties exist. They are like a lighthouse that guide us through turbulent seas. They do not change as our cultures change, but rather stand still, pointing upward to the truth and shedding light upon darkness. They do not change based on our moral epistemology, which is how we come to understand morality. They exist outside of us. We discover them just as we discover the laws of math. We don't create moral values and duties, just as we don't create the laws of math. We discover them through our conscience, which is often based upon our feelings of shame and guilt and our experiences. Moral values are either good or bad, or what is, while moral duties are either right or wrong, or what ought to be. Moral values are themselves descriptive, while moral obligations are prescriptive. The foundation of our moral values and duties is the source and standard of all goodness, our divine moral lawgiver, God. Objective moral values are like an island, and our feelings and preferences are as the sea that flows around the island. We determine the rightness or wrongness of actions not based on our feelings about those actions or the consequences of those actions and whether those consequences have outcomes we prefer, but on whether those actions are in alignment with perfect goodness. Types of perfect goodness are justice, mercy, fairness, love, charity, human dignity, and intrinsic human value. Christian moral realists believe humans have intrinsic value as God's image bearers, consistent with Genesis 1:27. So what is the opposing view? Moral relativism is the ethical framework that says we have no objective and transcendent moral values and duties. Rather, we create moral values based on our cultural preferences and feelings. Our feelings determine what we value. There is no permanent lighthouse to guide moral relativists, but rather their temporal, dynamic, personal standards, preferences, and feelings. As one atheist put it, our values are derived by our interests, which are tested by expertise. They may say humans have value because we assign value, while then stating a contradictory idea that all humans have equal value and rights. Assigning value necessitates one human having more value than another. However, those who say that our value is assigned are no different than Hitler, who determined value by ethnicity, health, and whether someone is a burden on society. Moral relativists may take a consequentialist position and state that our collective goals are to maximize human flourishing, happiness, and pleasure while minimizing harm. Thus, the actions we take should be in alignment with these goals. They often focus on the situation by saying that the rightness or wrongness of moral actions depends upon the particulars of the situation and the values they emphasize to address the situation. But this emphasis can have awful outcomes. For example, they may say it's wrong to kill an innocent child so long as the child is not within the mother's womb. If the child is in the womb, it's up to the mother to determine his or her value because she has sovereignty over her body. They value her sovereignty over her body and her personal preferences more than they value the sovereignty and preferences of her unborn child, who'd surely prefer to live if given the chance. Moral relativists may also say that it's wrong to kill a perfectly healthy 20-year-old who's become an inconvenience. Yet it's right to kill a grandfather who is in a nursing home and who's become an inconvenience. But if values are applied differently in different situations, then you're presupposing a standard and simply varying its application. The mother who hires a doctor to kill her unborn child has presupposed objective values of bodily autonomy, sovereignty, and sexual freedom over love, sacrifice, and care for her unborn child. No society can last that holds merely relativistic views. It's been tried and tested by Mussolini and Hitler, yet they failed. Why? Jesus explained why to Paul when he told him to stop kicking against the goads. It's a futile and pointless method. God has created the world in which we live, and it's futile and pointless to try to live without him. Now let's get on to the problem of indifference. After witnessing one of the most gruesome and evil human atrocities in human history, Holocaust survivor Ali Wiesel once stated that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. Indifference is a demon that's particularly pervasive in the West, especially in wealthy countries with strong social safety nets. God hates indifference. Proverbs 21:13 says, "Whoever closes his ear to the cry of the poor will himself call out and not be answered." Or Zephaniah 1:12, it says, "At that time I will search Jerusalem with lamps, and I will punish the men who are complacent, those who say in their hearts, 'The Lord will not do good, nor will he do ill.'" Revelation 3:15-16 says, "I know your works. You are neither cold nor hot. Would that you were either cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth." Google defines indifference as a lack of interest, concern, or sympathy. The term is closely related to apathy, which is a lack of interest, concern, or enthusiasm. One pictures an indifferent or apathetic person lounging on a beanbag, scrolling social media all day, eating Fritos in his pajamas. He is no warrior for God. He is no warrior for anything save for his keyboard. Our purpose on this planet is to be a warrior for God who is love. And how does God prepare us for this highly important and ultimate task? One way is to permit evil. When we witness hatred and evil, we strive for more charity and love. We align ourselves with others with similar desires and against those with opposing desires. Together, we strengthen our resolve to win the war with God and love. Social identity theory posits that we form our own social identity through our subjective beliefs about the legitimacy and stability of our in groups versus our out groups. Social identity theory helps to explain why we have in groups and out groups in the world, such as groups mitigate the potential for indifference or apathy. Lambs and goats, wheat and weeds, angels and demons, antichrists against Christ. As Jesus said in Matthew 12:30, "He who is not with me is against me." Let me give you another example. When I became more active on Twitter in 2015, following my rebirth into Christianity, I quickly found in groups and out groups between Christians and atheists. Those interactions led me to strengthen my resolve to put on the whole armor of God by knowing the Bible and the arguments for his existence. I dove into a sea of books and learned a lot from authors such as C.S. Lewis, G.K. Chesterton, William Lane Craig, Alvin Plantinga, Hugh Ross, Michael Heiser, Nancy Pearcey, Brant Petrie, and Ignatius of Antioch, Augustine, Irenaeus, Polycarp, Catherine of Siena, Lydia McGrew, and many, many more. Now I thank the many atheists and agnostics who've contributed to this process, as I'm now a stronger believer than I've ever been. God's plan has been very effective in helping me achieve my purpose, and I'm hardly alone. Millions of Christians are armoring up for the spiritual battle in many of the same ways. So let's all get off of our metaphorical beanbags and spread the good news. As Jesus commanded in Matthew 28:19, "Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And behold, I am with you always to the end of the age." So, what is the shocking reason for God to permit evil in the world? It's because he loves us and wants to strengthen us spiritually. There are no beanbags in heaven. So, I hope you enjoyed this today. Please, if you will, and if you like this kind of material, please like, subscribe, and come again. And just remember, whether you eat, drink, or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Thank you.